Well, during our trip here to the Faroes, we've been talking to various people about what they're doing here and how they've achieved it in going for the carbon neutral options, renewables. I'm delighted to say you've been sold to me as the man with the plan. and you know, you work for the company, the electricity company, and years ago you had to come up with something or whatever, and you've been the one that's taken the island and obviously the politicians and the people who matter with you, and that's what I'm intrigued about, because in the Isle of Man we're still sort of not quite there. So what's the secret to getting that sort of mindset in front of the public and the politicians?
Yeah, it's a long story somehow, and it's I started in the company in 2008. Actually, I've been working for Shell in the time before, so I was selling oil to this company, to the utility, for 10 years. Afterwards, I stopped at Shell, and I managed to get this position in the company in 2008. 2009, we do a cooperation together with Dong Energy from Denmark, and at that time they convinced us on this. You can say that we are in a position here in the Faroe Islands with all the elements: rain, wind, and so it was possible to. We were convinced at that time that this is a perfect test bed. So we had a cooperation for many years. We named it Grane, and with Dong Energy, where we were getting, you can say, help from them, from experts, and they were able to do testing on the Faroe Islands. So at that time, and a bit later too, when we realized that wind power had the right technology at that time, it is around 2012, then we in the company became convinced on that this is possible to go to take a fast move, saying by 2030 we have a vision for the Faroe Islands to become 100% green. Huh?
I mean, this is not a cheap option, I'm guessing, when you looked at it, because you were on diesel. In fact, you were committed. I think that's everything, wasn't it? And prices where they were and now where they are. Of course, you were right, but it's one of those things no one could predict where we would be now, would we?
Yeah, but at that time we realized, and we have had 2 projects with wind farms, and with the pricing of the wind farms decreasing, we were convinced on that this can be as cheap or cheaper than oil for most of the time. So it was very easy to becoming convinced ourselves and the authorities on let's make more wind. And actually that had been the pressure from people, from NGOs at that time, also on the Faroes. So it's also a question about the right window. But when we take a major step in 2014, where we put in 12 megawatts of wind turbines just outside Tórshavn here, that was a mega step also. And at that time we felt now we are going to do something special, saying we announced this vision. And that was in 2014. 1 year later, we get a new. We had an election for the parliament, and we get a new government. And actually, they were green. They were thinking green in the government. And at that time, they took over, or they took into their coalition agreement this vision, saying, we support what you are saying as a company. And actually, we also at that time already had got support from the authorities in the area. So actually, you can say all regulator, politicians, and the company together went out for the same goal. And then then it was very easy to move, because you had the same target. Everybody was pulling the right direction.
Okay. And this is the quandary that I've talked to everyone here in the Faroes about. Is how did you manage that? Because it's not easy necessarily to get everyone looking in the same direction, because everyone's got vested interests and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this is what maybe we're stumbling in with the Isle of Man, because we're hooked on this gas turbine which has got to be paid off and all that. And there's not been much movement. I mean, Don came and saw us 10 years ago, and 10 years later we still have nothing.
We saw what was going on in Denmark and globally. And you have had many reports, the Brundtland report, and things, and the Rio statement and Kyoto protocols and things like that. So you had a lot of global influence on yourself, and at that specific time, I realized that we had the board within the division, we had the staff within this vision. So actually, my job was just to pull all this information together and saying, we go for this.
But okay, the Isle of Man's got exactly what you've got here, and we've got tides. I mean, if that ever comes into the mix. But I mean, there's a period to get going, right? I mean, even if the Isle of Man said go now, how long did it take you really to get everything going? And it's a work in progress, isn't it? You're still putting more stuff in.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing was to get all the technical people convinced on we stop oil and go for wind. And actually at that time we had very, very expensive oil. So it was a bad alternative to do oil. And so in the board of directors and together with also the technical people at SEV, we agreed on now we go, and actually we did that step with 12 megawatts of turbines. That was somehow people got in the utility, people were convinced at that time. So it was rather easy to put this up.
Of course, technology, and this is what this whole conference has been showcasing, is you just can't rely on wind because it doesn't always happen. Solar, the same thing. There's so much talk about how to keep the lights on all the time, and this is the bit that's still work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was the challenge. Afterwards, it's easy to say it, but then people ask, how are we going to do this? Because of all these problems or challenges. And actually, we had 1 year, 2 years, and we did. You have to communicate on this, and you have to convince, and you have to convince internally and externally. Yeah? And for 1 year, we had a very simple roadmap saying these are the elements, and then you were able to communicate. But we also put up tangible. We had to do a tangible roadmap saying what are the elements inside this. How to go to harvest these elements, and that was a job we did together with authorities and together with consultants from abroad, Dansk Energi at that time, and we got also other consultants to deliver into this, and at that time we were able. We put up. These are the elements you have to, and how to build them together, and to be sure about the security of supply and the quality of the product. So and that was a 3 or 4 years period. And so you said we are working on this. So I think in 2018 we were able to announce what are we going to do in details. And at that time you said you were also you could work with. We have to have a new tender on wind because that for sure will be elements. That that was the easy part. That was the first steps to do. But in the later period, when you are coming closer to 2030, which elements are you going to harvest? And we still have some uncertainties. We say that every second year we revise the plan, and we also said at that time you have to build in new technology not known today or at that time today, but we have to because the world is going on, and there will be new assets, there will be new battery systems, synchronous compensators, and things like that, and which was not known at that time, but for sure they will be on the shelf before 2030, and that actually is what we can say today, because now we have done batteries, synchronous compensators, and things like that into the system, and so and we had actually also a very big project which is in the pipeline right now. It's a pump storage.
Right. Pumping it uphill into a reservoir, basically.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, I should point out, because you're on your own. You don't have
afterwards.
Yeah.
We had another challenge, because this was a vision for whole society, and the utility is just controlling what is used in electricity. So then we put pressure on the political system, saying, now you have to do some incentives, because the consumer has a choice. Am I going to carry on with oil, or am I going to carry on? Am I going to make a shift to electricity? Heat pumps, EVs, and things like that.
Yeah, no VAT, right? That sort of
and
thing.
that is a task done for the authorities and done for the political system, because then you have some you call it the stick and the carrot, and you have to do things. And actually, it's a political action on this matter is pure legal, because if you want just the private sector and the utilities to do this, they are looking at what is in it for me, and that can be a period of long time before you have a new equilibrium about supply and demand and the pricing. So to speed up that process, there has to be done a political task. And so you put some incentives in, you put some carrots in, and you put in the stick. And that is a political task to be done for a period. So you get a quick transition.
Yeah, and heat pumps and EVs are doing very well here. Yeah. I was going to say, pointing out that you're on your own here because there is no interconnector anywhere else. Yeah. And you've got the main grid, but you've got all these islands, and they've got their own, some of them their own separate thing. It's been quite a task to be able to manage this, I should imagine, as one big group, isn't it, to get everyone's lights on at the right time. And another thing is your population's been going up, and your oil had been going up massively, but you've turned a corner, haven't you now?
Yeah, now it's going down.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will be 67% green this year. That at least that is in the budget. And that was a challenge with the growth in the society, because you had to fulfill also that, as you have this obligation of supply. But what I see as different from maybe you say Isle of Man is that we are totally on our own, and our alternative was rather heavy fuel oil. So it was easy for most of the whole part. It is a better alternative economically to do this the green way than you do it the oil way. So it was easy to convince most people, saying this, it will not be more expensive by doing it. Maybe it's becoming cheaper. At least you will have stability over price, and you will not have this fluctuating of the pricing as the oil has. And with the Ukrainian war now, with the oil peaking prices here, things are really moving on the consumer side right now. People are asking for heat pumps, they are asking for EVs, because it's much cheaper alternative to do that.
Finally, hydrogen. I'm going to set through a few things here. I thought this was going to be the big thing, and now I'm seeing people talking, saying it's not quite there, and maybe never will be quite what we thought it was. Would you be investing or thinking about hydrogen as the way forward in the end?
It's always a question about when. It's not a question about this or that. It's always a question about both, and both alternatives, and when is the window open for this new. And the when is if you have some customers asking for that. But I don't see on the short term, hydrogen as a element in producing electricity, but maybe you will produce by excess electricity hydrogen for some customers who will pay the price of the product. Yeah. It's a question about efficiency and things like that. So it's there will be some customer. And another thing I have to mention now is when we started this, we were much on our own. Mm-hmm. But today the whole industry is asking for, are you going to reach the target? Because we rely on that, and the export, our customers, which are exporting fish, they say their customers are demanding green fish, fish production based on renewables. Yeah. So the big industry on the Faroes, our customers, they say you have to fulfill with your target.
You've got a fishing vessel that's running on EV as well. I mean, just making the whole thing greener. Isn't that the plan?
There's a boat, a service boat with a battery.
So everything could go.
And we also, there is a pressure, as in Europe, for shore connections for vessels. So that will also be here in the short, within a short period. But the American family eating Faroe salmon, they want it to be done in a sustainable way, and that the business know that. So they have also put up plans.
So they're driving this thing. Consumers.
Today they are in it. So it's much easier to. We are not going to. It's not so much discussion about this way or that way. It is we are on the right path. Huh?
Okay. Well, and to wrap it up, I presume you host countries that come and see you. Are you a bit of a showcase here? What you've been doing? I mean, the Isle of Man. Politicians would be interested probably to see what you've done and how you've done it.
We have a lot of visitors, and we are taking all in, saying you are welcome. So we have presentations as showing, and actually we are owned. The utility is owned by the municipalities, and we are not a business user in that way. So we have not so much to hide. It's more with regards to cyber attacks and things like that. They will say we have something to hide, but with in respect of operating together with partners, we always say you have your own you call it IPs out of this, and we are not going to deal that much with you about that. If we get some hardware in operation working, you can take out your EP out of this project together with us and go out selling that to your customers and learn. So we have actually with some suppliers we have managed to do testings that they say this is a good solution. We go further on with this. So it's a win-win situation also dealing with your suppliers.
And you are going to make your 2030 commitments, I guess. 2030, you're going to hit your commitments?
Yes, that is the plan.
Yeah. Thank you.